Like most chronically online and aesthetic obsessed people, most of my life lives on Pinterest. And amongst all of my boards, I have this one called Clothing to Make. And recently I was thinking to myself, I never have the right to say that I'm bored when I have thousands of projects that I could be starting right now. So here we are. I'm gonna be hand sewing my dream Pinterest outfit. Now, I don't have a sewing machine. I don't have experience sewing except for like little rips and tears in clothing here and there. So picking out the right fabric is honestly a challenge in itself. A lot of websites and people recommend you start out with a cotton or linen fabric, but it's really hard to choose, especially when you're afraid of messing up the fabric somehow. But ultimately, I went with things that are pretty similar to what I would normally wear. So obviously, to validate myself, I chose the easiest thing to do first, which is the tote bag / Tsuno bag. Honestly, I'm not starting out with the best equipment. I'm using this tiny pocket sewing kit, which, you know, it's tiny. There's not much to it. The tutorial that I use for this bag is already on YouTube, so I'll make sure to link their video down below, but I'll give you the gist of what I had to do. I started out with 1 yard of fabric for this project and folded it in half to cut on the first side of the bag. I made the bag 8 inches wide and 12 inches tall, and the straps are about 25 inches. Honestly, tracing and cutting is the easiest part of this. Like, even if you trace it kind of wonky, like it's not the straightest lines, you can still kind of get away with it when you hem it. Just make sure that that's decently straight, but also, like, who is looking that hard? So like I mentioned before, I am a complete beginner. I don't really know what the stitches are called. I just did the most simplest thing that I can do, and I've been using the bag since I made this and it holds up, so I don't know, I guess that worked. However, I did mess up. I would not follow exactly what I'm doing, more so just learn from my experience, you know? Because I realized after I had sewn all the edges and flipped it inside out, I had accidentally sewn the straps in the wrong direction. Really, in the tutorial, he mentions that he does like a bias type of thing. I did not want to do that, to be honest, because I'm a bit lazy and I think it looks fine with the rough edge. But yeah, just don't sew it inside out like an idiot like I did. Because now here I have to take out all of the stitches, which I could have been done so much sooner. For this next project, it's inspired by this 1950s wrap top. I actually saw a video of this on TikTok, and there's not many tutorials that I've found helpful on the internet. I just feel like they're not really geared towards beginners because they don't really give like measurements of anything or like specific details that is easy to follow. And to be honest, I'm not gonna do that either. But I mean, like, it's fairly simple. It's a rectangle with a circle in the middle and then straps. For me, I just put the fabric up to my body and then cut what I felt like was a good enough length, because I started out trying to measure it and then I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. This was honestly a trial and error. The first time I cut it, it was way too long in every direction, so I had to cut it again. So I just kind of freehand all the measurements except for the neck hole, and honestly, I still think it's too big after having, you know, finished it. The sleeves are a bit too big. It's kind of a look. It kind of looks good. I mean, it does look good, but it wasn't really intentional. Everything was going pretty smoothly until I started on the skirt. The execution for this pattern is fairly simple. All you need to do is take your waist and hip measurements and divide it by half since you're folding the fabric in half. You want to mark those on the fabric and leave a bit of room at the top for the waistband and measure it to your desired length. Here you see me measuring my legs on the bed for some reason. I don't really have an excuse for messing up at this point, but since the fabric I got was pre-cut in a weird way at the bottom, I couldn't get the length that I wanted. So I ended up scrapping this skirt and getting some more fabric to make a wrap skirt. Making a skirt is not for the weak, and I was so stressed out during this process that I didn't want to film, so instead I thought I'd draw out a demonstration of what I did. I started out with 3 yards of fabric and I just kind of wrapped it around my body to see the measurements of how long it needed to be. And once I cut that out, I realized that the back was very see-through, so I kind of doubled it up, but I didn't have enough for the entire skirt, so that's why you see it's only on like half. And for the straps, I placed one on the outer corner and then one a couple inches inward on the other corner, simply because when you wrap it, in order for the tie to be in front, and really in order to wrap it in general, it has to be more towards the middle instead of just on the end. And these are the results. I think the top came out the best. This fabric was a really good choice because it's so soft and breathable, and I think the texture gives it a nice flowy structure on my body. I'll probably make this top 3 more times because I literally am obsessed with it. Now the skirt, on the other hand, needs some work. I did forget to put an elastic band in there, so it does keep kind of falling down. And honestly, I just think that my measurements in general just need some work. I am not good with a tape measure, so that's definitely an area for improvement for me. But I think in terms of what I was going for, like the structure of the skirt, I think it's very beautiful and I'll definitely wear this out. The real reason why I started this video is because I always envied people who are able to make their own clothing. And I'm sure especially if you're watching this video, you've seen people post very cool and unique patterns online and have aspired to make your own clothing. And I always thought it would be too difficult because I don't have a sewing machine. And I know hand sewing sounds like it's so ancient, but it's actually very simple. It truthfully doesn't take long to hand sew, especially once you get the hang of it. And it's a really good start, especially if you don't have anywhere near the amount of money to get a sewing machine. Overall, whether this video inspires you to make your own clothing or do a thrift flip, I think it's worth doing simply because you can make things that are catered to you and special for your own body. As I'm sure you caught on throughout the video, everything that I made, I just kind of aligned it with my body. Now, did I still kind of mess up? Yes, but this was my first time, so I'm cutting myself some slack. But I think making your clothing is a really big advantage, especially if you feel like vanity sizing doesn't really suit you. And clothing should always be made to fit you instead of you trying to fit standardized sizing.